Hello, my name is Jimmy and this is the 11th generation 2023 Honda Civic Si. And like the rest of the Civic lineup, it is a little bit more tamed than the previous generation. Is that good? Bad? Well, you can definitely let me know in the comment section down below. This here is the Canadian spec Si, so there are some differences depending on where you're from. And because it's in Canada, well, it's not as good of a value as you get in the US, for example. But let me tell you everything you need to know, starting with the looks. Starting with the front here, it's very similar to other Civic models. The only real difference is the honeycomb grille that's in the middle, rather than the standard grille that you get on the other models. You still get LED headlamps as well as fog lamps down below. But unlike the Si of the previous generation, it's certainly nowhere near as aggressive. Moving to the side here, we got these 18-inch blacked out alloy wheels. They are matte black. Some may like that, some may not, but at least it's a little different, but not too much different, because from the side anyways here, it looks very similar to the Sport trim, including these blacked out mirrors. You do get proximity door locks on the front door, so you can lock and unlock the door as you wish, which is definitely a good feature. Moving along here, I love this kink that's right here. It's, well, like the Accord. I do love that. Just like this little lip spoiler. It's nothing too crazy, it's not a Type R, but it gives you enough to tell you it is a little bit more sporty than the rest. You get these combination LED tail lamps and then dual exhaust on the bottom. Unlike the previous generation where you got that HDMI exhaust in the center, this just looks more normal. And that goes with the entire styling of the vehicle. Everything is just more tamed. It's more, well, for a mature audience, really. However, if you want to spice things up just a little bit, there are, well, body kits that you can buy. Honda can sell you this HPD lip kit, so you can make it a little bit more stylish than what we have here. If we open up the trunk, love that feature. I mean, it does have the swan neck that most vehicles have because it is a cheaper way to produce it. But instead of going with the articulating arms that, well, some European models tend to have, it just has a damper on the right-hand side. And it's subtle. It is really, really subtle. But when you open a trunk, you no longer have it just bounce off to the top. That little damper just makes the experience a little bit better. I mean, what? Less than $10 in parts makes it a little bit more fancy. But in here you get 14.4 cubic feet of space. It's actually quite decent. And if you want a little bit more, well, you can pull right here and then those seats fold flat, giving you more space. However, no matter how you package a sedan, it's still not as good as a hatchback. So the Civic hatch or the Integra will give you more space overall. But let's head to the inside. All right, the back seats of the Civic Si. I'm 5'11", and if I sit upright, I'm gonna be like right on the headliner. If I slouch a bit, it is good. Knee room is not bad, and my feet can go underneath the front seat here. It's definitely not too shabby back here. It is a little bit dark, especially with the darker seats and the darker panels and this large seat right in front of me that is also very dark. But I do get heated seats in here, that's nice, as well as I get USB charge points, which is certainly something that we need. The only thing is USB-A, so I mean, some may complain about that, some may not, but you know, an adapter is not too expensive off of Amazon, so you can definitely do that. You do get an armrest in the center, but the armrest it's just a little low for me because the left one is higher than the right, and because of that, I'm kind of slanted. And you do get cup holders in here, but if, well, you need that fifth passenger, don't worry about your cups at all, I guess. The headrests, that is another thing I want to just identify a little bit. They're not movable. So they're okay, but they're definitely not the most comfortable as some other vehicles may be. And that comes into play, especially if you're going to be putting child seats in here. I am a child passenger safety technician, and I'm certified to put these seats within the vehicle. On the driver's side, this is a collect lane infant seat. No problems getting that in and out of the cabin here. As you can see, there's plenty of space for that. And on the passenger side, this is a collect fünf. This is a rearward facing convertible. My son, he's currently 2.5, and he fits in here perfectly. The one thing I will say is because it is a sedan with the lower roofline and the lower ride height, I mean, I'm 5'11". I'm not the tallest person in the world, but even myself, I had to kind of duck down and kind of place him in. And because of that, my back has been hurting a little bit. So if you're shorter, no problems. But if you're going to be on the taller scale, that's definitely something to consider. Well, if you're getting a sedan over an SUV. In terms of lower anchors, you do have two sets, one on the driver's side and one on the passenger side here. They're just behind this little fabric cover. It's actually a really nice place to put those lower anchors because they're easily accessible and this flap doesn't get in the way when installing the seat itself. I do like that. In terms of upper anchors, you do get 3 just on the top here. Because the headrests aren't movable, well, you just got to place the seat belt in the correct fashion. Do check your owner's manual for that. And if you're putting a forward-facing seat in here, just make sure it fits because depending on the seat, this headrest, it may be in the way. So do check out for that. But let's head up to the front. All right, the front seats. Like I said, 5'11", headroom is good, legroom is also really good. On the seat itself, you get 6-way adjustment, so fore and aft, the backrest fore and aft, and then height adjust. So if you want to have more of a tilt, you can't get that. If you want more lumbar support, you also can't get that. But at least you get heated seats, which is definitely nice. And the bolsters, oh, they hug you really, really well. For some though, this shoulder bolster may be a little bit too much because it kind of curves your shoulder blades forward, especially on your passenger side. Well, if you're just sitting regularly, you kind of get pushed a little bit more forward than you may like. So do check out the seats if you're thinking of purchasing one. Because this is the Canadian spec model, I do get a leather and heated steering wheel. Definitely a great feature. You also get this red stitching on the inside, which is really, really nice. The buttons are your typical Honda buttons, so you got your track forward and all that good stuff. They may be a little bit small, depending on, well, the size of your thumbs, but for me, it's okay. I've been okay with that. Behind that, you get your digital cluster. It's very similar to other Civic models, except on the top, you get shift lights, which are actually pretty cool. As you roll through the gears, it's going to tell you exactly when to shift. There's also a little chime that's inside that can tell you when to shift as well, but generally, if you hear the chime, well, you're bouncing off that rev limiter. You don't get a heads-up display on top, that's only for the Integra, but you do get the 9-inch infotainment system, wireless CarPlay, Android Auto, works well. It is a little bit laggy at times, but at least you get a volume knob, which I do really like. It does what it needs to do. There's really no complaints on here, but over time, if it gets like updates, it may get slower. So that's something to look into in the future anyways. Below that, you do get your climate control. It's very simple layout. It has all the buttons that you really need at your fingertips, so no issues there. Underneath, you do get your Qi wireless charger as well as 2 USB plugs. Of course, the 6-speed manual shifter right here, drive mode selector, electronic handbrake. Overall, it's exactly what you expect a Civic to be. It's like the regular Civic. I mean, you get some red pieces here and there, which is to me a little tacky, but I'm sure there's a vinyl somewhere that you can remove that or replace that if you need. Honestly, it's not that big of a deal. And also, what's not that big of a deal is just the materials that's in here. Because, yeah. Yeah, there's some cheaper plastics in here, but it's a Civic. While you are paying definitely a lot more money than you were back in the 90s, it's fine, I guess. Let's talk about the powertrain before we go for a drive. Under the hood, we get a 1.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. It's dual overhead cam and it has VTEC. It makes 200 horsepower and 192 pound-feet of torque. Yes, it's 5 less than the previous generation, but torque, well, it comes in earlier and stays for longer. And what do all of those numbers mean? Well, acceleration is a little bit slower than the previous generation, but at least you get that torque range throughout that rev range. So for example, I'm on a highway on-ramp right now. I'm going to slow down to like 20 kilometers per hour in second gear. It's like spinning at just 1,000 RPM. I'm going to floor it. At 2,000, it fully picks up. And we're well on our way. Yeah. So, while yes, it's 5 less horsepower than previous generation, you're really not gonna feel that. Because of that torque range, it actually pulls very evenly right from the get-go all the way up to the red line. Sure, it's not the red line that you got in the K series of the previous generation's Civic Si, You don't get that screaming 4-cylinder. But I gotta admit, this is easier to drive day to day. And if you really want something that screams at you, get the Civic Type R. But that's basically double the price of this because, well, yeah, those things are very, very expensive. Maybe not brand new, but okay, maybe brand new in some other countries, but here you have to sell it at MSRP, kind of. But the used market, I mean, there's one on sale right now for 80,000 Canadian dollars. Yeah, pretty insane. But anyways, back to the Civic Si. The ride quality on this is actually really, really good. It's quite comfortable, actually. During longer journeys and even highway commutes, I don't find it all that bad. It's only when you're on slower speeds and rougher roads where the suspension harshness comes into play a little bit, but only for those little times. So to me, I don't find it that bad. I actually quite enjoy it. And when you're on the highway, you can turn on the adaptive cruise, you can turn on the lane centering, and it basically, not really, but basically drives itself. Unlike the previous generation where you couldn't get that on the Civic Si at all. So it's a huge improvement to your daily kind of commute and drivability. Something that, to be honest, a Civic Si owner, it's going to be doing often. And that's exactly why this makes sense. It's a Civic Si. It's sports injected. It's not supposed to be the Type R. So as it stands, it's actually a very, very compelling vehicle. I do wish it had a little bit more power, to be honest. So like maybe 20 more horses, and that would just make things a little bit sweeter and acceleration a little bit quicker. But if you really want a little bit more power, just call up Honda and get it tuned for it. You can easily get that 20 horsepower out of this little 1.5. Overall, this Civic Si, it's a great vehicle. It really is. The only problem I have with the Civic Si, and this is truly a Canadian problem, is the pricing. Here in Canada, the Civic Si comes in at 37,000 Canadian dollars. And you can't stack on options. You can't even get summer tires as an option here. So Civic Si, 37,000 with all seasons. And the problem with that is, well, a base GLI, that's 35,000 Canadian, two less than this. Or for $2,000 more, you can get an Elantra N. Not the N line, the full-on N, with that really, really sweet 2-liter with 276 horsepower that Savage Geese recently tested. It's, well, not a lot slower than a Type R. That is a hell of a bargain. However, this, it's just a Canadian thing. Because at 37, it's a little pricey. I know in the US, it's actually a lot better. But here, it's just a little bit harder to swallow. Let me know what your thoughts are on the Civic Si. Is it worth it in Canada here for 37, where you can get the GLI for less, or the Elantra Type N, not Type N, Elantra N, for a little bit more? I mean, the Integra, yeah, the Integra is expensive. Because if you want an Integra with the manual, you have to get the A-Spec and the Elite package here, and that's $10,000 more than this. I mean, for $4,000 more, I would say sure, but 10,000? Ooh, Canadian prices are just insane. In any case, thank you so much for watching this video. Like the video if you do, subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll catch you next time. Take care.